So what do you think of my new office space? I've recently redecorated, added some bookshelves, and I'm curious as to what you think and how it's looking on screen. Feel free to give me some feedback in the comments. But that's not why you're here today. Today, we want to talk about doubts in our writing. You know, sometimes we are our own worst critics. We say things to ourselves that are harsh, demoralizing, maybe even cruel. And that mental chatter contributes to the way that we doubt ourselves as writers. Well, if you have ever struggled with your ability, your credibility, or who you are as a writer, then this video is for you. Let's talk about what to do when you doubt yourself. Hello, I am Denis'Thomas, and this is part of a series that I am doing on the writing process. Now, I've already done some of the videos that are on the preceding stages, and if you haven't seen those, you'll probably want to watch those too. In fact, I have an entire playlist on the writing process, and I'll link to that for you. But in the meantime, here's a quick summary to catch you up. When you are working on a big writing project, like writing a book, you go through several predictable phases of the writing process. You can count on it happening. Now, it may look and feel different each time, but there are specific phases that you can predict are going to happen, and you can predict some of the challenges that you're going to have during those phases of the writing process. So that's what this series is all about, is that if we can predict them, if we know that they are coming, then there are probably things that we can do that will help us through the writing process until we finish our books. Now, each part of the writing process has a predictable place on the energy effort matrix, which is a big fancy word, but here's what it means. That in each phase of writing, you can expect that you will have certain amounts of energy for the writing project, your enthusiasm, your excitement to get to writing. Some phases of the process have high energy and some phases have low energy. And then of course you can have anything in between. The same is true for the effort that it takes. There are certain parts of the writing process that often feel effortless, that they just come easily and you just bust out words. And then there are some parts of the writing process that you can predict it is going to be a lot more effort to get into your writing project, to do your writing for that day, to work through the piece of the project that you are working on right now. You can just expect it's going to be harder. Where the energy and the effort come together is often pretty predictable in each of these phases. Now, we'd love the whole process to be really high energy and really low effort. I mean, that would be great, right? Maybe, but maybe not. I actually am a big believer that we need all the parts of the process, and that if it were always high energy and low effort, that we might just blow through writing and neglect other important things in our lives. But we need that sometimes. Knowing what to expect helps us to prepare ourselves for each of these phases. So today we're going to talk about the doubt stage. This is when your doubts about who you are as a writer, the kind of writing that you are doing, and anything related to your writing, it all really amps up. So things might be going through your head like, ooh, is this too much information? Is it too personal? Am I really credible to be writing this? What are people going to think when they read this? Is it good enough? Is this really expressing what I wanted it to express? Are people going to poke holes in my plot? Am I good enough? And the key thing about this doubt stage is that while you may have some of those kind of doubts all along the writing process, the voices get much louder in this stage. And there's a really good reason for this. You're getting closer to finishing. You're getting closer to that point where you're going to release your work into the world, which is risky. I mean, people could hate it. Critics could bash your work. Your parents could hate it. And those things would cause us emotional pain. And so the doubts rev up as a way to help us to prepare for that and maybe even to protect ourselves from that ever happening. So your mind will go through all the scenarios of things that could happen if you finish and publish your book. But if you don't publish it, no one will criticize it. You won't be found out as an imposter. And that is the purpose of the doubt stage. It's really to raise the alarm about the risks of writing and to really have you fully consider what that means for you. And are you willing to do that? Sometimes when our doubts creep up, they rightfully convince us that maybe this isn't a project I should put out there. But often it's just raising criticisms and ideas of things that will never happen. But the purpose is to prepare you for it. So what do you do about it? If you're going to have doubts, how do you tackle it? This is where a lot of the angst of writing really comes in. But there are things you can do that will help. First, let's talk about what you don't do. First, don't waste your energy arguing with yourself. Don't try to convince yourself, oh, that will never happen, because honestly, those kind of arguments aren't winnable. If your body is sounding the alarm about that, you're not going to convince yourself otherwise with logic. And in fact, what you fear actually could happen. That doesn't mean it will, but it could, and that's why you're having the doubts. Second, don't believe that you can make your manuscript perfect. Oh, if I work on it a little bit harder, if I go through it all one more time, I'll catch every mistake. You cannot make your manuscript perfect on your own. That's why we have copy editors. That's why we have publishers. That is why we can hire people to read our manuscript, because no matter how many times you read through your draft, you will not catch every mistake. And I bet that you, like me, have read published books, professionally published books that have been edited by people that are top in their field, and you still find mistakes in those. So your manuscript is not going to be perfect. Don't expect it to be. And 3, don't try to outrun or outlogic your doubts. Don't drive yourself crazy trying to run from them and not face them. Recognize that they serve a purpose. And 4, don't stop writing until the doubts ease. They will ease if you stop writing because you're not doing anything that could make those doubts come true. But if you stop writing until your doubts go away, then either you'll never start writing again, or you will miss this beautiful opportunity that you have of thinking through the things that could go wrong. So if you don't do those things, here's what you do instead. Read stories from authors who also talk about their doubts. You are not alone in this, and that may be inspirational to you. Next, imagine your ideal reader in detail. Why does that person need you to write this book? Why would they want you to keep writing? Next, allow yourself some growing room. In the next book, you're going to know more. You're going to be a better writer. So allow yourself the grace to grow into your writing profession. That means it doesn't have to be the ideal manuscript at this time. Now, that doesn't mean it can't be good for your experience and your skill level right now, but it does mean that you're allowing yourself to have some growing room, recognizing that the book that you write in 10 years would not be the same book that you're writing right now. Here's another idea. Join or even start a writing group where you are surrounded by other people that are also doing this writing thing and where you can talk about your doubts together. My next idea is to use your doubts to propel you to write a better manuscript. If you are having doubts about a study that you are citing and you're wondering if it's really a credible study, that can benefit your writing. Maybe you need to go back to that and really look at how credible that study is. And if it's not credible, use a different one instead. Propel your writing to be better because you have those doubts that make you question things. That's one of the benefits of this doubting stage. My next idea is to lean in to your doubts. Embrace them as your friend. I know this sounds weird. That's probably the counselor in me coming out, but we don't have doubts just to scare ourselves. We have doubts that are purposeful. And so if you lean into them and you embrace them as such, it gives you a really good opportunity to learn more about yourself. And maybe you will even get some ideas as to motivation for your characters. One of the best things that you can do is to journal as you are experiencing doubts. Really get in your journal, use your 500-word writing session for a day or two, and just explore what it is that is holding you back. What is it exactly that you fear is going to happen? And why, if that happened, would it be so bad? That will help you to uncover what's really going on with your doubts. One of the reasons that we don't like doubts and that we try to run away from them and not face them is because we don't quite understand them. But by journaling, you have the opportunity to understand your own personal doubts a lot better. And so that leads into my last idea, which also is probably an unusual one, and that is simply to express gratitude for your doubts. I am really grateful that there's part of me that is thinking through the worst case scenarios so I can prepare myself better for them. I am grateful that I have doubts that make me relatable to others. I am grateful that I am not so grandiose in my writing skills that my writing becomes egotistical. Whatever it is about your doubts, think about them and express gratitude for what they are actually providing you. Self-doubt, fear, and lack of confidence, they're just part of the writing process. It doesn't mean that you're doomed to be a tortured writer. It doesn't mean that at all. What it does mean is that you have made significant progress in your draft. In fact, your draft is actually getting close to being finished. That's why these doubts are revving up, because they want to protect you. So pat yourself on the back for the work that you've already done. You've done a lot of writing in this draft. You're really getting somewhere. And that could be risky. Doubt is just your way of preparing for the worst. You can do this. And if you like videos like this, would you take 2 seconds to like, subscribe, and maybe leave a comment? That will make it really easy for these videos to drop in your feed so you don't miss any. And it also makes it easier for other people to find this kind of content. And if you want to check out that playlist that I mentioned at the beginning of the video, you can find that one right here.